Hi there, my name is David Buttle. I'm the Global Commercial Marketing Director for the Financial Times, and we're the proud supporter of the Investment in Brand category for the Drums Marketing Awards. This year, we decided to decouple the award from the rest of the marketing awards in order that we could explore and recognise the work that brands have done throughout the pandemic. The ultimate winner was Guinness, decided by a panel of marketers from the Drum Marketing Awards jury. So I'm delighted to be joined by Grania Wafer, the Global Brand Director for Guinness, and we're going to have a discussion about the Guinness brand and the work that they've been doing that led them to win the award. Grania, can you tell us what the Guinness brand means to you?
Yes, so for me, obviously, I'm an Irish woman, I'm a Dubliner, so I have a very personal connection with the Guinness brand. But actually, my father had a Guinness pub that is right at the gates of the brewery in Dublin. So I grew up with the smell of roasted barley wafting through the air, and you could say I was raised by Guinness. Now, obviously, Guinness has a huge impact within Dublin and within Ireland. So I think, like most Irish people, I have that connection. And of course, later, the amazing advertising, which really inspired me professionally to a career in marketing. I joined Guinness Ireland Group back in 1997, which was just about the time that Diageo was forming. And I remember the sense of pride, but also the sort of sense of humility I had when I first walked through those gates. And I think that is something that you carry with you when you're working on Guinness all of the time. You're very conscious of the amazing people who have built this brand since Arthur Guinness over 260 years ago. And I'm very inspired by them, whether it's people like Arthur Shand, who used to travel the world in the 1800s checking the quality of the Guinness, or whether it's people like Michael Ash, he was a mathematician who created the formula that led to Guinness Draft, or of course Arthur Guinness and the Guinness family and the values that they've represented. And they really are embedded in the core values of the brand today. So as I've learned more about the brand and its history, obviously that's a very personal connection, but also a professional one. And when you think about the Guinness brand and the kind of core values it stands for of power, which is about the strength of the brand, the strength of the product, and the strength of character of the people who drink it. Also the goodness of the brand, the philanthropic legacy that I've referenced there, but also the quality of the beer. And of course, communion, which is the third value that the brand stands for, which is really about the connection between Guinness and its drinkers and Guinness and its communities around the world. So I think my connection is a very personal one, it's a professional one, and it's one I'm very inspired by and very proud and humble to be a part of now.
And why do you think the marketing of Guinness resonates so deeply with consumers?
Well, I think it is because of the lasting truths and values that I spoke about of power, goodness, and communion. They're very true to the brand. They're very true to the history and the legacy, and of course the product itself. So it's very rooted in what we're about. As well as that, I think Guinness has a long tradition of creative flair and a little touch of something just magic. And we hold ourselves to a very high kind of creative benchmark. We describe our benchmark is like, is it something that only Guinness could, only Guinness would do? And we use that to guide the ambition for the work. And again, like lots of the things about Guinness, it's inspired by a bit of our history as well, because back in the 1920s, actually, the very first Guinness ad, and a brave marketeer went into the office of Rupert Guinness, as it was back then, with the great idea to do some advertising for Guinness. And Rupert Guinness said reluctantly, well, we'll only allow that happen if the quality of the advertising is as good as the quality of the beer. And again, that's really been a principle that, we hold ourselves to, both the quality of our beer being second to none, but also the quality of our work being second to none. So I think that's partly it. I think we've a track record of telling great human stories over generations of Guinness advertising. whether that's things like Gareth Thomas, whether it's the story of Supers, whether it's the most recent work with the Japanese rugby team and that coincided with the World Cup. Lots of amazing stories that people can really connect to, guided by those values of the brands. And I think, rooted in that sense of creative flair and ambition for the work to be really something magical and special.
And as you've alluded to and indeed referenced, the Guinness brand has been behind some truly iconic advertising campaigns over the years. How would you describe your relationship with those campaigns now? Do you feel shackled at all by them? Does that, or are they sort of creative inspiration for you?
Uh, I look back at the Guinness advertising legacy and I'm hugely inspired by it. We have a very, incredible archive, which we regularly reference anytime we're thinking about it, not just advertising actually, but any activation. And we go back and we build those threads of consistency. And I think that's something that's also been very true to Guinness. We have a very consistent approach to our work. We stick with campaigns for a long time. Made of More now is in its 8th year, and we allow that to build and evolve over time. We're always very conscious of staying very true to what's going on in culture and representing that. But I think it's always a huge source of inspiration to me. And the advertising, I think, is a great legacy of advertising history, actually represented by Guinness, always inspired by the product, always has those core values at the heart. And at its best, we're connecting at a moment in time with something that's very culturally specific, resonant, and that people feel really speaks to them in a very powerful way.
And so, what would you say is the main focus of Guinness and the Guinness brand and marketing strategy right now? What's the aim of your strategy?
Yeah, so we operate in a very competitive category. Beer is very competitive, and the category has been growing over the past few years. People will have seen the explosion of craft, for example. Breweries actually doubled in GB in Ireland across the period of 2012 to 2018. So in that very competitive, cluttered context, what's really important for us at the heart of our strategy is about building distinctiveness and salience in a way that stands out in that sea of competitors. And Guinness is a very distinctive brand. It's a beer made of more for people made of more. And alongside that sort of sense of distinctiveness, we bring consistency, as I spoke about. So really sticking with a campaign, a very simple formula actually, which is consistency times creativity. A lot of focus on measuring our work, on making sure that we are evolving it, that we're making it better. And when you think about how Made of More has actually evolved over the last 8 years, we've moved it from being a campaign that was led by metaphor into a campaign that told human stories like you'd see in Supers, to now a campaign that's really connecting in culture, and trying to hit some cultural touch points as well. So we really think about how that changes and evolves. Alongside that, we are trying to make sure that the work is really effective. So alongside the magic, and that we're also making sure that it gets better over time. And one of the big legacies, I think, of Made of More is we've successfully driven a doubling in the return of investment from that work over the period of the campaign, which is, especially strong achievement when you think that that's also double the average of return investment from other competitors in the category. So really that's what the strategy is about. We also obviously think about what's the idea at the heart of that strategy that really speaks to the truth of the brand, that really connects with the insight about consumers. How do we apply that creative flair to keep the work improving, getting better, and the discipline to stick with it and really understand what's working, where do we need to evolve, how does the work need to change, and respond sometimes in real time to those changes as well. So that's the strategy in a nutshell. It's about driving distinctivity, driving salience, and making sure that we are building that distinctive nature of the Guinness brand fully in all touch points. And obviously consumers, they're changing across that time as well. How they're engaging in content has changed. It's moved from being a simple broadcast model to, really thinking about every touch point right through to participation and how brands are being experienced in brand homes, etc. So really thinking about how we bring that through. It's not just an advertising idea, it's actually a full brand idea.
And turning now to the current crisis, clearly it will have impacted, I imagine, some channels through which you access the market. How has your strategy changed over the last 2 or 3 months in reaction to what's happening in the world?
Well, I think the strategy, remains the same. Guinness is a brand that has a history of 260 years, and one of the things that I think has really stood to us across that time, and there's been, lots of challenging periods, is that sense of consistency, actually, and really staying true to what the brand is about and what the product is about. But obviously, around St. Patrick's Day, which is when many markets started to, see that rapid change. It was very clear, for example, that St. Patrick's Day, which is a huge moment in the Guinness calendar, particularly in our draft markets, that wouldn't be happening and the bars would be closing. So we had to move very, very quickly in terms of changing our content, changing our messaging to really support our customers at that time in underlining the importance of staying home, in importance of staying safe, and also reminding people that there will come a time when bars reopen and when people can safely socialize again. And we, re-edited our ad in literally a matter of 24 hours, 48 hours. The team in the US did an incredible job to point that at that message and the inspiring message of "We will march again." So, again, it's a very consistent strategy, but like adapting quickly in real time. Another thing that obviously has changed is behind the scenes. We have been putting a huge effort into the quality of the beer and really making sure that when bars and pubs do reopen, that consumers across the world will have the freshest, most beautiful Guinness that they've ever had. And, again, that's a huge focus behind the scenes. It's not just about the ads, it's about the logistics, it's about the full supply chain and making sure our beer is really, really wonderful as well. And then at the same time, obviously, there was a change in consumer behavior where they suddenly weren't able to go to bars and were drinking Guinness at home. And, we saw a fantastic kind of explosion of actually user generated content with consumers sharing their hacks for pouring Guinness. We actually ran a kind of a Your Guinness Your Way social campaign, which was very, very well received. We moved into Instagram Live every other Friday with our brewers, talking about different things about the canned experience, explaining some of the brewing, explaining the packaging process. They went head to head in a pour off, which was quite fun. So really thinking about that, and then also keeping an eye on actually what's happening in culture. So some people may have seen the beautiful sofa post. It was with a stay home message, and it was a white sofa against a black image representing the iconic pint of Guinness. And we absolutely loved that. We saw it and we contacted the creator. And we felt it really hit the right note in terms of, landing a very, very serious message of staying home, staying safe, but actually doing it with a smile as well. So I think, it's been a very interesting couple of months. And you have to, I think, move in with great agility and also, I think, really stay true to what you're about as a brand, and draw on those roots as well.
That's really fascinating around your St. Patrick's Day campaign. Can you tell us a little bit around of the results from the creative that was eventually released?
Yeah, I mean, look, it was really, really positively received. It hit a chord with consumers, a sense of us kind of doing the right thing at the right time. And I think that is so much a part of the period we're in right now, is making sure that we are attuned to the sentiment. And so it created an awareness spike, and again, a lot of positivity towards the brand. But I think it's also important, a little bit like I spoke about the campaign as a whole. It wasn't just about the ad. There was a huge campaign behind our bar staff funds, actually, and making sure that the bar staff community are supported through that period. At the same time, we have a brewery in Baltimore, which is combined with a visitor centre. And obviously, that was also closed. So they started baking bread and donating it to the Maryland Food Bank. And also a portion of the beers that they're brewing now is also going to that charity. So there has to be, I think, a combination of really thinking about the role of the brand, what's appropriate, but also the role of the brand within the communities that it's operating within, whether that's bar staff or the broader community, for example, around Baltimore.
That's super. And just finally, what can we expect to see next from Guinness?
Well, I mean, I think in the short term, what we're seeing is different places across the world are at different stages, and we anticipate that that will be the case for some time to come. And so the most important thing for us is to make sure that we're, supporting our customers, that we're providing environments where consumers can safely socialize, whether that's, in their own homes or whether it's actually out in the trade, and making sure that the quality of the beer is outstanding. We know from our social channels that people are really looking forward to that first sip of a delicious cold bottle or pint of Guinness, wherever they are in the world. And we want to make sure that, we reflect that sentiment appropriately as we build those plans. One of the things, I've referenced history throughout the course of this interview, but Arthur Guinness signed a 9,000-year lease on the Guinness Brewery over 260 years ago. So we like to say that we're a brand that has 260 years of history behind us, but 9,000 years of optimism ahead. So there will be plenty of hopefully great creative work, great creativity, great agility, and great insight emerging from our campaigns over the coming periods.
That's fantastic. And I would definitely echo those sentiments about looking forward to a first glass of draft Guinness after the pubs reopen. Well, thank you very much, Grania. That's fantastic. And congratulations again on winning the award.
Not at all. We're absolutely delighted, and thank you.